Hi everyone, it's Ted, and today I've decided I'm going to start a new series on cover different units in Black Powder, from all the different nations and stuff. And most units we're going to be covering will work with are included in all the nations. So I'm going to just do generic, and but it covers all of them, all except one for right now. So in this one, I'm going to cover howitzers and rocket batteries in the Age of in Black Powder by Warlord Games. So we'll start with the howitzers. Howitzer is it's a short barreled basic artillery piece. Unlike cannons, which fire in a shallow trajectory or a straight trajectory, a howitzer fires high in the air to come down. It was used to shell, originally developed to shell castles and some fortifications, so you go over the walls instead of into the walls. And black powder, they are covered by. This is a British howitzer, and what a lot of people don't game with this one, but most rules don't cover is every artillery battery had howitzers. So in a British artillery battery was a 6 gun battery. Two of those were howitzers. So they're always in the batteries, but they're not usually included in rules or anything like that. But black powder has a separate section for howitzers. So I modeled up one. This is a British howitzer. It'd be the same for the French, Austrians, Russians, or any other nation that uses howitzers follows the same rules. So basically, a field howitzer, which is this is a field howitzer, has a range of 36 inches. So that's its max range. Um, like artillery, it has a long range, medium range, and short range. Short range is 6 inches, up to half range, half of 36. 18 inches is medium range. Over 18 to 36 is long range. But unlike artillery at the different ranges, which goes from 3 to 1 at long range, howitzers are always 2 dice at close, medium, and far away. So there are, because they use an exploding shell that drops in a mix of troops and something explodes. They're just like field artillery. They move like field artillery. So 12 inches or 6 inch prolong. So same thing as regular artillery. Uh, like I said, you always throw 2 dice. But like artillery, when you're rolling for morale saves for artillery, if you're hit by artillery at long range, it's a -1. At close range, it's a -2 to your morale. So if you normally save on a 4+, if you get hit at close range, close or medium range artillery, you gotta throw a 6+ to save that hit. But with a howitzer, it's always a -2 no matter what, because the shell goes in amongst the troops and explodes. It's an exploding shell. So that's what it's used for. Now, the other uses for artillery is for setting buildings on fire. They load it with hot shot, which is a heated incendiary cannonball, fire into a building or a city to set things on fire. So in black powder, you can use howitzers as one of the items you can use to set buildings on fire. So if you got a building middle of the table that's defended by skirmishers or a unit in there, if you got some howitzers, you can set some howitzers up, lob some shells in there, and try to set the building on fire. So basically, all you do, you got to roll the hit. You just have to hit the building normal. So whatever range it is, you roll your dice. If you hit, you have a chance of setting the building. You do damage as normal. So if there's the enemy in there, they try to hit them. So set a building on fire. So at the end of the turn, so you got 2 howitzers. They both fire at a building. They both hit the building. At the end of the turn, there's 2 hits on that building. What you do, you take 2 dice, you roll them. If any of them come up as a 6, that building's on fire. Now, if you roll double sixes from those 2 howitzers, then that has an inferno factor 2 on the building. So what that means is this is the ability to put the fire out. So more you got on there is just more fires they got to put out. So in the rule book, just a couple pages over from the artillery, you got the building fire table. So right now it has a ferocity of 2. So if the building is occupied with troops, those troops all need to do is you got to try to to extinguish those fires. So with this, you just gotta roll those numbers. You gotta roll, since it's a fire of 2. What you need to do is you gotta roll that number or higher to put the fire out. So if it's only a 2, infantry in the building, roll. Oh, so that means I didn't put the fire out. I rolled a 1. The fire's not out. The fire continues. If the fire burns for 3 turns, you basically burnt the building out, and who's ever in it has to get out of the building. So, but every turn you can lob more in there. So if next turn you fire in there, you hit 2 more times, that knocks that up to a 4. So the guys in the building will try to put 4 out. They roll the 1 again. They don't. So the fire burns with 2. If it survives 1 more, the fire guts the building. The guys have to leave the building. So that's if it's occupied. If it's unoccupied, it'll just burn for 3 turns and be gone. It will not be active. So if you have a pesky building in the middle of the table you want to get rid of, lob some shells, set it on fire. But setting on fire is the harder part. Is you need 6s. But if you actually hit it twice this turn, you roll. If you get 1 6, the building's on fire. So if you hit it with 4 howitzers, all 4 hit, then you roll 4 times. As long as you roll 1 6, the building's on fire. But it was hit 4 times, so it's the building's on fire. Now, once the building's on fire, you roll a dice. That's the intensity of the fire. So now it's burning at a 4. So you got roll the 5, you put the fire out. Boop. So, but as long as it burnt, that means they managed to snuff the fire and got it out. So as long as you roll 6s when you hit, you can set buildings on fire and eliminate them off. That's also good for shooting. And another thing with howitzers, in most artillery, the overhead of friendly troops, you got to be on a hill, elevated position, so you can clear the heads. Howitzers, you don't. Howitzers lob up and over, so you can have troops in the way, and you can fire over the troops. So you can have your howitzers hidden behind your regular troops, and they can just lob over and they're protected, while artillery has to be up on a higher ground than your troops to fire over their heads. So that's the use of howitzers. They're not used that often. Most people just use artillery, but if you have a couple, they can come in handy in some instances, and plus they still fire like regular artillery too, so it's still artillery fire, but they just operate on a different way. So that's a howitzers. Nice, quick way howitzers. Now we move to the next one, which in the book is the British rocket batteries. They've reworked these from the first edition to the second edition, and these are the funnest things in the table. They're like the old day. I don't know if anyone played fantasy with Goblin rocket batteries. These kind of operate on the same function. Either they go really well for you, or they go really bad for you. So, with a rocket battery, this is another one that can shoot over your friendly troops, but how the batteries might not want to do that. So basically, all of this, they have a 60-inch range for the rocket, so they can reach out a long range. And it doesn't matter if it's short, medium, long. It's 1 dice to shoot. All you have to do is call your target. So you got a lot of French line infantry. I'm gonna call that target. You drop 1 dice. All right, I missed. You always need a 6 to hit. That's put it on target, because rockets go all over the place. So you rolled, you miss. Now you mishapped. So there's a mishap table in the book that you roll on. So he mishapped, so he's just going to drop a dice. I rolled a 3. The rocket is a dud and fails to fire, so it just hits the ground or just slithers across the ground, so nothing happens. Nobody gets hurt. Now, so I say if he shot, I rolled a 6. That's on target. And just like shooting, if you roll 6, you disorder the target. So the target you hit is disordered and needs to take a morale check. And it so you hit, and it's just one hit, but you roll and you kill a guy. But the target is disordered. Now, any unit within 3 inches of that target is also hit on a 6. So if you got 2 packed units right next to each other, close, you roll. If you roll 6, then that unit becomes disordered too from the blast. So it's a fun weapon. It doesn't cost that much, but now this is what happens. You do mishaps. The rockets can do whatever they want, and they don't care who they hit. So you roll the 4. That veers uncontrollably. So what is whatever the target that you pick for the missile hit, you can use a dice with arrows on it. Like I use old GW misfire from their right for the rockets. Say the same thing, or you can use some directional. You pick a target, you roll the missile, whatever the target, the arrow points. That's the way the missile's going to fly. So it's going to either fall short, fall long, or it can actually go sideways or whatever. Then you roll to see how far it travels. You roll. I rolled a 4. The rocket travels 12 inches from the aiming point, strikes the first unit in the direction indicated, friend or foe. So if your target was the middle of a unit, so say if you're shooting an artillery unit, and you rolled, and it's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So 4 is back toward. You measure 4 inches back. Whatever the first unit if it hits a unit, that's where it's going to hit and explode. But it can be friend or foe, so these can come back and hit your own troops. So if you got units close together, if the missile misses, it can come back and hit your own guys. So that's where the hilarious of the rocket comes in. Or if you really roll bad, if you roll a 1, then you run, the whole rocket battery explodes, and you're out your rocket battery. So there is a bunch of stuff that can happen, but I say when you hit, you disorder the target, they take a casualties, and anything around it. So if you got shooting at an artillery battery, and there's like 3, you got a couple batteries. That if you hit that target and disorder, you got a chance to disorder both of those. You roll. I did it, but if you rolled another 6 and another 6, you can disorder the whole unit. So even if it can still fire, it takes minuses to shoot because it's disordered. And if it's charged, it's defending it disordered. So it helps out when units are close together. So it's just a fun little thing. They were used basically by the British because they were the ones experimenting with Congreve's rockets. They're used in Spain. There was one battery at the Battle of Leipzig, and there was one at Waterloo too. So they were used. They were used some in the Americas too, but they're just the gunners from what you read and stuff were a little crazy because they're at the leading edge of technology. So they weren't. A lot of people consider it not right in the mind because they're playing with these explosive devices. So once you shoot them, they don't know where they went. So I figured I'd just make a quick little video on these guys. You don't see them very often, but they do come in useful and circumstances. Howitzers are just like artillery pieces. You use artillery, and they have little extra bonuses to them. And artillery and rockets, it's hard to hit with them, but when you hit with them, they can mess up some stuff. So it's a give or take on them. So I hope this gives you some insight on some very rarer looking field pieces and stuff. And until later, guys, I'll be back with more. I'm going to cover other infantry, cavalry, different kind of cavalries and special rules for them. So if you got an ongoing series on different units and black powder and stuff. And once I get done with Napoleonics, I'll expand onto the other groups and stuff like that. So I got for Civil War, Zulu Wars. Then you can go back in time, American Revolution and stuff like that. So I'll cover. So a lot of these rules have the same effect on those, and it's just little tweaks and stuff on how maneuver. But basically, I try to do rarer things, British Grenadiers and stuff, how they work and stuff. But so there's some ideas I'm tossing out there. So come stop back in again. I'll have more coming up. So later, guys, and keep those miniatures on the table and get them painted. That's all we need is more painted miniatures, guys.